Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I just wanted to do a video real quick to kind of discuss my feelings so far about being a nurse. Is nursing for me, is how do I feel about it basically so far? And this video, as well as many of my other videos, it's going to be unedited, so forgive me if I trip up over my words or I say the same things over and over again. But I just want to get everything out. So for the past 7 months, I've been a new grad. Some of you have been watching my videos since I've been fulfilling the prereqs, and it's been a journey since I think 2016. Do I regret this path? I don't regret it. I feel like many of the bad feelings that I feel as a new grad right now can stem from a number of different places. Number one being I became a nurse during a pandemic. I graduated in May 2020. Prior to that, that was my last semester of nursing school, the semester where you are actually given more responsibility in clinical. We were supposed to be assigned 5 patients. We were supposed to work up to it. And that just never happened because it was cut short by COVID. So there was a lack of learning that didn't happen in fourth semester, a lack of a more in-depth clinical experience. We were kicked out of clinical at this hospital that I'm currently working at because of COVID. And then we ended up going to a different hospital, but only for 8 days, a county hospital. And that clinical day was even short. Um, so there were a number of things that happened with that. In all honesty, those who have graduated in 2020 have probably been cheated in some ways as far as their clinical education. So I don't doubt that I'm not the only one feeling like I have a big gap in knowledge. Second to that is the fact that I don't like feeling like just incompetent. And that's the way you feel when you're a new grad nurse. You feel like somebody's going to die on your watch. You feel like you're not going to be able to tell when somebody's declining or needs help or is about to die. And coming on as a new grad nurse, especially in this pandemic, your preceptor may have to spread their attention towards other things besides precepting you. And you may get exposed to things that you normally wouldn't get exposed to had you not graduated during a pandemic. I know that my hospital was spread thin in the past few months that I've been a nurse and had been onboarded, and the pandemic hit hard. We were short staffed, so they asked us to work more. I did not pick up extra shifts, but during my shifts, it was what other nurses that have been there before or have been there longer, what they call different. This is not what it's supposed to be. Your shifts were not this strenuous with this high acuity of patients. Med surg rarely, in my hospital at least, deals with higher acuity patients, but during this pandemic, we were forced to because of the need for beds for those who had COVID. I also took care of COVID patients, which is not normal in my hospital, apparently, for a med surg nurse to do, but if they weren't vented, they were sent to us. And they could be in dire straits or on the verge of needing ventilation, but if it came to that point, we would need an ICU nurse or someone else to take care of them. But we only had 10 beds in our ICU. So, put in our position as a new grad, that's a lot of stress as well. So there are many reasons why I feel the way that I do. I don't hate my job. I initially hate driving to my job because I'm on night shift and I just hate leaving my family. I hate that my 3-year-old cries sometimes when I leave. I hate that I'm watching them play and I am there with them and then I have to leave. But when I get to work, I'm anxious. I'm thinking about what types of patients I'm going to get. I don't understand how the patients are assigned to people because it seems like it favors others more than others, especially if you're new or, especially if you're new, whether that means a new grad nurse or new to the hospital. I just don't understand, and I intend to ask someday how that is set up. I also am not used to the way that people talk to each other. I'm not used to doctors just having these bad attitudes as if nurses don't do things that are stressful like they do. We do things differently. I mean, we have different positions and different things in our jobs that entails different things. We have different stressors, but one of the main stressors is to keep people alive. And nurses have a lot of patients just like doctors do. We may not have just as much, but we spend the most time with them. And I don't think that some doctors are aware of that to the point where they just treat us like crap. Um, they're not cognizant of that when they're talking to us. They're talking to us like we don't know anything, but it's like we know some things, but we're just not a doctor. So, I mean, we're going to be some things that we don't know, or there's a reason why we're asking, you know. But aside from that, other nurses have been rude, or, you know, they don't want to be giving of their time. And I understand everybody's spread thin, or maybe they just don't want to help you. There are different reasons, but me adjusting to people's attitudes, that has been a struggle as well. I try to keep my own attitude in check, and when I do that, I feel like I'm being walked on. Um, and it's just a weird feeling because I'm not somebody that will go off on somebody, at least initially. I keep my feelings in check. You can call it swallowing my feelings, you can call it suppressing them. I think it's suppressing. But I try to keep it in check because I feel that a lot of times people expect me to behave a certain way just based on the color of my skin. And when they find out that I'm not going to act that way, then they find it as permission to walk all over me. And it's a struggle to find the balance. I get to that point. Like I said, I'm not a person that blows up. I mean, I'm not a person that will just go off on you over every little thing. Like if you have an attitude at me, I will keep my feelings in check. But there's only so much or so many times that I can do that before I blow up. And that's not healthy, but that's the way my personality is. And sometimes I don't like myself for that. I would like to address it, but I feel that if I address it in the moment, I'm going to say the wrong thing because I'm speaking out of emotion. A lot of people are great at how they are able to speak in the moment, you know, using the proper words and being professional. They could tell you to go to hell, but professionally, to where you don't know that they're telling you to go to hell. But I can't do that. I don't have that. Well, I shouldn't say I can't do that. I guess I could train myself and work up to that, but I haven't gotten to that point. So it's I suppress, and then I blow up because you've crossed the line too damn much. And sometimes I admire people that are just like, I don't give a damn what you think. You're not going to talk to me like that, and are able to address it right there. Like my sister-in-law, she does that right away, and I admire her for that. I, on the other hand, need to work on that. But that's part of the struggle. To come from a professional environment, a professional business environment, to this where it's like everybody's stressed and everybody just talks to you any kind of way. It's an adjustment, and it's something that you weren't taught in nursing school. There's a lot of things you weren't taught in nursing school. Number one being how to communicate with doctors and other people on your team who have horrible attitudes. We learn interprofessional communication, but it's like if the scenario was a good scenario, you know, how to give SPAR, but not dealing with all these attitudes, you know, all these condescending attitudes or people talking to you like you're incompetent. Forgetting how it was to be a new grad. So those are some of my struggles. I struggle with anxiety. So coming onto a shift, it's like I want to run and hide, but I don't. I push forward. I use all the methods that I used in my last video to kind of manage the anxiety, and I push forward. And once I get past that once I get past 7 to 12 o'clock, the anxiety starts to lessen. Just getting in there and starting to do my job makes the anxiety lessen. I guess once I start to know what my patients are going through, having some communication with them, kind of seeing how they are mentally and physically, and knowing that they're not going to die, or that I don't need to be on top of things with them, kind of lessens my anxiety. When I have that patient that is like, okay, I need to keep an eye on you, there is a tinge of anxiety, but then I remind myself that I have help, whether it be God or the charge nurse. I have help, and whether they get annoyed at me for asking, I still ask, because someone might die. But yeah, so it's an adjustment, especially being a new grad, and especially working so hard as I did to get to this point, and then finding out, well, I didn't have this rose-colored glasses view of how a nurse was when I was in nursing school. I always felt like we're not getting the full experience because we're not there for 12 hours a day. We're only able to do so much as a student. And how some of these nurses that you follow during clinical, they just look like they're ran ragged, I always knew that it would be different once you become a nurse and your responsibility changes and you're just responsible for everything. And the threat of losing your license looms ahead of you. But it has definitely been an experience being a nurse in this pandemic. And one of the reasons why I wanted to become a nurse is to spend more time with my family, because I heard that there was a 3-day-a-week shift for nurses. But as it turns out, those 3 days are exhausting, and you just spend a lot of time recuperating from them during the week. And especially if you work night shift, everything's flipped for you. So you're like exhausted most of the day when you're off, or you're sleeping. So it's not how I pictured it to be back when I was taking my prerequisites to do this. But the payoffs is when you have these patients that are just so grateful for what you're doing, and you're actually implementing nursing care that has affected them in a positive way and helped them to get better. When I get back on the next shift and I read through the notes and I see that some of the care that I have been giving has affected them positively, and the doctor writes that, they're okay to be discharged, in the morning, or that the patient is just so incredibly grateful for your care. They tell me, that I'm a great nurse. We vibe or whatever together, and we find out about each other, what's going on in their lives. And I'm able to affect them positively in any way. Those are the small paychecks that I do get, and that I feel like this is the profession for me. But on a daily basis, or when I go to work, it's just getting over that initial anxiety and that feeling of like overwhelm. So initially when you become a nurse, it is overwhelming because you feel like there's a lot to learn, and how are you going to learn all of this? Like every day there's something new that you don't know, or something that you don't remember from nursing school, and you worry about if you even can recall half the information from nursing school, and it overwhelms you even more. You feel like you don't know what you're doing, you don't remember, anything that you've learned. How can you be a competent nurse? So that's one of the struggles that I have, and I try to keep that in check and tell myself and be kind to myself that it'll eventually get better. It's my 7th month, and I know more now than I did, on the first day starting. I have become more aware that the doctors are going to what doctors have an attitude, what nurses aren't going to help you. who to go to, and more aware that, and more bolder in like, I'm going to ask anyway. I don't give a damn about your attitude. I know how to control myself. If you can't do that because you're burnt out or, jaded by this job, so be it. But I'm still coming to work and I'm still doing my job. If you saw one of my other videos, I did get talked to by the managers because I had been requesting time off with my own time. There's low census where where you can volunteer to be off because the hospital may have scheduled too many nurses for how many patients are on the floor. And so the hospital may say, hey, you're off today. You save them money. That's great. You won't get in trouble for that. But when you actually call in too many times, obviously you're gonna get in trouble for that. And I like called in twice a month, apparently, and that was, looked at as bad. And that's mainly me trying to run away from my anxiety or wanting to stay home with my family. And so I've been working on that since I've been talked to, and it takes a lot for me to talk to myself and actually take my butt to work, but I do. And once I get into work, I am like a hard working machine. I do my job. And there are things that I miss sometimes, and I have to forgive myself for what I don't know. What I don't know how to do, or there was a time where I found out I wasn't initiating orders. Like this whole time, when a person got transferred from ER to med surg, I wasn't aware that I was supposed to press a certain button to initiate certain orders until I contacted a doctor to ask for, hypokalemia, low magnesium protocol. I forgot what it's called. Electrolyte protocol or something. I needed that because the patient had low potassium levels and it wasn't on his file. And then he's like, oh, go ahead and initiate the orders. I'm like, oh my God, how many times have I not initiated the orders? Like, I wasn't even aware that I was supposed to do that, but I always thought it was ER's thing, and I just totally forgot about initiating the orders when a new patient came. So from now on, I'm always checking to make sure that orders are initiated. But things like that, I constantly forgive myself for things that I don't know, and I'm constantly learning. And that's what I do love about this job. I'm constantly learning. There's something new every day. You start to get familiar with certain diagnoses and what will be on the orders. And I like that too, because you start to become comfortable with seeing certain things and knowledgeable about what, the nursing care will be. So that kind of helps. You start to feel confident in your ability. I've done a lot more procedures than I did in nursing school, obviously, and it's building my confidence, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that I'm not, stuck at a desk all day. For some people, that's fine, but for me, it just wasn't fine. I feel like I've earned my paycheck when I get in my car in the morning and I'm driving home. So those are the good things about nursing that I love. Do I feel that med-surg is for me? No, at this moment, I don't feel like med-surg is for me. Do I feel like it's a great place to start and to learn? Yes, I do. There's a plethora of different procedures that nurses do on a med-surg floor, and I would highly recommend starting there. I myself do not plan on staying there. I find myself wanting to spend more time with the patient, talking to them, especially when a patient cries. And you just feel like, okay, I can't spend this much time with you because I have to move on, because I have to pass these meds to these other 4 patients. It's not right to me. So it's kind of a conflict with my soul. So I feel like I might be better fit for a office position, or, in a physician's office, especially if I want to become a nurse practitioner someday. Being in that environment would probably help. I don't necessarily want to go to ICU or ER at this point. The hospital life is probably just not for me, bedside like that. And I have no shame in saying that. It is for some people. but it's just not for me. Maybe even home care, maybe being an infusion nurse. But I don't regret coming into this profession. Um, and it is a struggle right now to go to work, and that may just be because med-surg is not for me. And that's okay. It's okay. You sometimes go into specialties that are just not for you, and you kind of find your niche. But as a new grad, sometimes you got to get in where you fit in and where people hire you, get your year of experience, and get on out. And find out what else the world of nursing has to offer you. Maybe even nursing informatics, who knows? I know that the areas that I did excel in nursing school was NICU. Pediatrics, not so much. I mean, not that I didn't excel, it's just that the parents were always there. So it's like when we went to clinical, it was like, there's not much you can do but take vital signs, and the parents really were really instrumental in providing the patient with care themselves during our clinical rotation anyway. In NICU, I loved it. I loved everything the nurses did for the babies. I just question myself if I'll be able to handle it if a baby doesn't make it. Can't stand seeing, things that can't fend for themselves dying. Can't. That hits a sore spot. And I also excelled in psychiatric nursing. So we'll see where this path goes. But those are my feelings right now. I don't hate nursing. It's just been a struggle, especially being a new grad. And if you've done any research about new grads, the rate of recidivism for new grads, or, new grads turning around and deciding that maybe nursing isn't for me, they're very high. Very, very high. Retention rates are low for new grads. So it is really imperative that whoever hires a new grad, that they support their growth and that they are nurtured when they first come on as a nurse so that they can stay in the profession, that they are told that their feelings are normal. And this residency program that I'm in was made to do that, to help nurture us. However, since the pandemic hit, through November up until now, March, we had not been in the residency. We had not had our usual class to where we're getting exposed to different things. And that's been detrimental to all of us, because we'll see each other in the hallway when we're working, but we have no time to sit down and chat and find out how each other's doing because we're trying to hit the ground running. So when we have our residency program class, our education class, we come together and we start to have it's like a breath of fresh air, because you find out that they're going through the same exact things as you. It's like a counseling session almost. So that's a factor in how we've been doing as well. If you have a preceptor that's really nurturing as well, or other nurses, that helps too. Me, on the other hand, I have been quiet or just kind of kept to myself a lot, so that might be a detriment to me. I've kept to myself trying to get my work done. I don't have time to chop it up with other nurses. Obviously, they're seasoned, and they've got this time management stuff down. They know what to look for. Not that they don't have anything else to learn, but I'm just at a different level than they are. They're in like year 3 of being a nurse, and I'm 7 months in, so I have nothing down. Not as much as them, I should say. So there's just a lot of factors that play into how I'm feeling being a nurse right now. I don't hate it. Bottom line is, I don't totally hate it. I don't regret it. It's just that I think the specialty that I'm in right now is not for me. Bedside nursing may not be for me, but I do plan on getting my experience, finishing this residency program, and seeing what else the world of nursing has to offer for me. So just so you know, this was not all in vain. I did not put all this hard work in but sometimes I did not put all this hard work in just for nothing. But sometimes it feels like it, because when you're in nursing school, all you think about is, most people think about, oh, I'm going to get a job at the hospital. I'm going to be an ICU nurse and an ER nurse. And when you end up getting that job at the hospital and it feels like it's not for you, or you don't like it, it starts to feel like, oh, I did all this for nothing. Not realizing that there's other things out there in nursing that you could be doing. So yeah, not throwing the profession totally away. Med-surg, I know, is not for me, but I'm learning a lot, and I appreciate everything that I'm learning. I actually feel like a little bit of a nurse. So yeah, anyway, hope this video has helped you all to come to the conclusion that I don't hate nursing. It's just an adjustment being in med-surg. Med-surg is fast-paced. Med-surg is 5 patients that you're caring for that require a lot of things, and it's exhausting and taxing on your mind, and especially if you have a toxic environment, and it just depends on who you're working with that day and who the hospitalist is. Especially for me, in my case, it doesn't help much, but I am optimistic about the profession. Anyway, I hope you all are having a great week, and if you're on the journey for nursing, continue. You never know what, can happen for you. What happens to me is not going to happen to you. It'll be different for everyone. So don't take this and think that, oh my God, am I making the wrong decision going into nursing? No, you're not. Your situation will be different, hopefully. And you just find your own path. But anyway, hope you all are doing well, and have a great week. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.